Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Appreciate you having me. Just want to run through a quick PowerPoint and overview of our response to Western North Carolina. So we got the call on that following Friday that, let's see. There you go. So we got the call to come to assist Buncombe County Sheriff's Office on the Friday that the storm stopped. We were not able to deploy that day. They called us back and told us there's no way to get up here. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how that happens with sheriff's offices. Through the North Carolina Sheriff's Association and our state disaster assistance network, instead of all of us rushing to Western North Carolina, we contact the Sheriff's Association and say, these are the resources we have. They coordinate response based on requests from other sheriffs. Then all of that is recorded through or pushed through the state EOC center so that we're given a mission number. So there's not duplication of resources. There's not an overcrowding of resources in one county versus the other. So you get that mission number, you're told where to go, and you go. So that's how it all gets started. So on Friday the 28th, as I mentioned, we were requested by Buncombe County to come to their aid. And they were really wanting rescue and recovery is what they were asking for. We went up there. One of the things that they told us is we need you to come up for a week, but we want you to be self-sufficient. And so we started thinking about what was that going to look like. So we ended up deploying on Saturday, the following day, and we put together a group of folks that could not only carry out that mission, but could also make sure we were self-sufficient. And so what that meant was we had to carry our own food, our own cookers, and everything else. Well, something happened during this process. And what ended up happening is as our folks were cooking breakfast one morning, officers started coming up from other agencies and telling us that they hadn't eaten in 18 to 24 hours. So we started feeding them the food that we had brought with us to last us a week. In 2 days, it was gone. So we gladly picked up this mission, a few of our folks, and began to go about figuring out a way to feed first responders. There's no water, there's no power, there's nothing open, there's no food for these first few days. So what we quickly did was take those people that we had and put them into preparing as many meals as they can. And I'll show you in a little bit what that looked like. But we initially took up 13 employees, 11 deputies for security and search and rescue. We took 2 telecommunicators at the request of Buncombe County to work in their 911 center. We also took up 2 drones at their request to help with search and rescue. And our property and evidence tech was our cook, for lack of a better term. He had some experience, and so we took him with us. Okay. So primarily those first several days we were doing search and rescue. Our special vehicle response team went up. They're trained in search and rescue, and they were equipped with 4-wheelers and side-by-sides. And they quickly went about in the Swannanoa area, right outside of Asheville, between Asheville and Swannanoa, going and doing welfare checks, rescue missions, and recovery missions where that was the case. Where there was no rescue, it was merely recovering a victim of the storm. Okay. So you see a few pictures are highlighted there, but that gives you an idea of the terrain that we were operating in. You'll see those intermixed in with this presentation. But we did deploy our command trailer as well. It's self-sufficient, so we were able to take that up. Also, Jason had mentioned the CAS system. We also ended up deploying animal shelter employees as well in Henderson County to support that operation. We had multiple patrol vehicles, trailers, those types of things that were up there. Okay. Then getting back to my kitchen services story. So this team jumped in wherever there was a vacancy and started literally preparing food and feeding folks in a secure environment. We were able to acquire a middle school where we started up the cafeteria. Fortunately, our guy that we took with us knew how to operate all the equipment in the cafeteria. So the school system said, have at it, whatever's there, please take and start feeding. And then we started getting donations from the community. We reached back to Cabarrus County, and many citizens donated food to go to feeding the first responders up there during those first critical days. So we were very proud of ramping up to do something we had never done before, but that was immensely critical. Next slide, please. Here is a picture of, we found out that there were 200 nurses at Mission Memorial Hospital that had not had a hot meal for several days. So this group prepared 200 hot meals and took them to the nurses at Mission Memorial, all through donations, food that were brought by restaurants that their food was still frozen, but it wasn't going to be frozen long. So they brought it to us to cook for these folks. So that was the first hot meal they had had inside of about 4 days of running a hospital with very little power and water. Next slide. As I said, our animals need help too. In a lot of situations, shelters are such that the companion animal can't be taken into the shelter for obvious reasons. So as Jason mentioned, the CAS system was deployed. We provided assistance in trying to coordinate that, because when you've lost everything except your pet becomes a very valuable thing and emotionally supportive. And so to be able to have them co-located where they could go out and take them out and visit with them and be there with them meant the world to them. So we're very proud. We sent them up to Henderson County 2 different times for a week each. We also got a request from McDowell County. McDowell County is where Marion and Old Fort are. You may have heard about how hard Old Fort especially was hit. We provided 6 officers to them and assisted with patrol calls, welfare checks, and security. We did a lot of security at different sites where supplies were coming in and you didn't know what was coming. Some of it was extremely valuable, so you had to secure it because a lot of people needed it, but it needed to be done in an orderly fashion. If you can imagine, when a tractor trailer shows up full of generators, it sparks a lot of interest, and so trying to get that done in an orderly fashion. So they did an exceptional job. This is them going in to the area where they were going to be working. Okay. And in search and rescue in the Swannanoa area, these are some of our deputies that are simply clearing cars that have been destroyed in the flood, making sure that there were no bodies in there, and if so, recovering those to get them identified and their loved ones notified. And the photograph on the right there is what they encountered the first night going into Buncombe County and where they had to get to. They literally had to cut a pathway down the road in order to get the equipment there. So it started immediately upon arriving in Buncombe County. Just another example of how many of these we're dealing with. One vehicle totally destroyed was not a one-off. It was everywhere you turned around. There were vehicles that had to be searched and cleared and made sure that anybody needing help was getting it. And just a couple of more examples of the vehicles. The Special Vehicle Response Team is a team that was created through a grant from the Cannon Foundation a number of years ago, and they were immensely they were invaluable in this particular operation because you couldn't travel by regular vehicle. It was the only way to get help to people and to make sure people were okay and identify what needs they had. So as a recap, we were there from September 28th till October 11th, 13 employees initially to Buncombe County, a second deployment on October 4th through October 9th, the 6 telecommunicators that went up and helped with Buncombe County. Our makeshift crew, food crew, served over 8,535 meals to just first responders, and we just found that to be simply amazing. And being dedicated that no job was too small. You can see on even notes were written on boxes that were going out as a form of support in getting this out to not only law enforcement but to firefighters, EMS, those types that were out in the field that just weren't getting food in the early days of this operation. And then I mentioned also Henderson County, the 4 shelter employees. Okay. And there we are with our partners from Buncombe County. We wanted to get one parting shot before the first group left, and developed a really strong relationship with them, with the sheriff's office, as along with many other sheriff's offices. And very pleased. I got a phone call after Mecklenburg County's officers got back from Sheriff McFadden, just thanking me immensely for taking care of his officers and us feeding them and looking after them during that time. There was a lot of support there when you could sit down and at least have one hot meal a day. So while it wasn't glamorous work, I went up and did it one day, and it wasn't glamorous work, but it made you feel good that you were keeping this machine going of providing support and services. So I thank the commission for being supportive, for allowing us to be able to go and help these. The whole system works on that. Hopefully you never need it, but I know Buncombe County, along with many other counties, would come running to support us if we had a disaster similar. So it's important. But thank you very much.
Great. Sheriff Shaw, Jason, thank you very much for that report, and please extend our appreciation to all of those people you've talked about that have served so well and made Cabarrus County so proud in the service you've provided. And as you said, we hope we never need to call on them, but it's reassuring to know that they will be there if we do. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you
very much.